Oh, does it? It feels so good to worship in the house of the Lord with you. I've missed you. Uh, Before I begin, I want to dismiss his kids, preschool all the way up to fifth grade. I have missed you, his kids, and you and your teachers are dismissed to class. Our youth, grades 6 through 12, you're staying in the sanctuary with us today. United Youth, grades 6 through 12, you're staying here with us. Before I begin, I want to join words with my husband as he expressed last Sunday at the member meeting. I want to thank you so much for our recent time of sabbatical. It was wonderful. And I feel rested. And we did things that we just enjoy that restore us, from hiking and canoeing to biking and motorcycling. All the things we love, and reading and praying and journaling. So thank you for your support, for your faithfulness, for serving. We never worried that everything was happening beautifully. So thank you to the Prendergast, Andrew and Kayla, who aren't here, but who ministered while we were gone. And I've been able to watch some of those messages, and it was wonderful. So thank you to them as well. I'm ready. I'm ready to go forward together with his church. And I also want to just, in this moment, thank my husband, who's also my pastor. And I'm thankful for your love and your friendship, for your leadership, for your example, and that you pushed me to grow and to get up here and do things that I don't always want to do. So thank you. I give you honor today for this opportunity. Well, as I look across the room, there are people from all different walks of life. You're in all different seasons of life, different ages. But there's actually one thing that we all have in common, and that is that we've been hurt. For to live is to be hurt. Something that was said or done, something that wasn't said, wasn't done, and that hurt may have happened a long time ago, and it may have happened very recently, but we're all going to be hurt. And it's even more difficult when it comes from someone close to us. And so, as has been mentioned, we're beginning a 2-part series, and it is titled Forward in Forgiveness. What I'm going to share this Sunday and next Sunday, they are not sermons. They are what God has given me, and I'm sharing that with you. And it's not exhaustive. I'm not going to be able to cover everything pertaining to forgiveness. Instead, I'm just going to share the things God gave me, what He's shown me. The first lesson today happened in a hotel room in Phoenix. The second lesson, which I'll share next Sunday, happened through a dream. And so my prayer has been for you, that God has ordained to be here today, is that He will give you understanding. Lord, give us understanding. It was March 2022. I was packing for our annual trip to Phoenix, the trip that Tom and I take to go motorcycling in Arizona. My journal entry says this: I grabbed my iPad, my American Sign Language notebook, and one other book, Acts 2:38 by Dave Norris. It didn't make sense, but now I know that Jesus had a plan to gently heal me from some wounds. So one morning in a hotel room in Phoenix, I got up early. Tom was still asleep, and I decided to pray and to read. And in this book, I saw themes of forgiveness, wisdom, unconditional love. In sharing stories from his life, Dave Norris revealed times of betrayal, being misunderstood, being deeply hurt by people very close to him. And yet, he had chosen to let go of those hurts. And so, as I finished the book, I felt tears come right there as my own hidden pain came to the surface. Betrayal, rejection, criticism, being misrepresented, lies, and from people really close to me, from people that I thought would have my back, from people that I had invited to be a part of my family. And in that moment, God gave me an image. He used a simple image, and it was myself holding this bunch of balloons, each one representing hurts. And then I heard his words, and that's the lesson today. If I were to give it a title, he said, holding hurts. I heard it so clear. Not only was he saying that I was holding hurts, but he was also saying my holding them hurts. It really wasn't even about the hurts or the people that brought those hurts. This was about me. I was holding. And I just have a feeling there's some people in this room that are doing the same thing, which is why the Lord wants me to share this with you, to help you, because we can't move forward holding hurts. You know, if you were close to me back then, you might have known that I was holding some hurts. But many people had no idea. Because you know what? You can show up even though you're holding hurts. You can show up at work. You can show up for your family. You can show up in your community. You can show up at church. All the while, you're holding hurts. But God saw, and he knew. And there in that hotel room, he gently said, you have to let go. You have to let go. You're holding hurts, Dianne. And by holding them, you're hurting yourself. You have to let go to move forward. I knew he was right. I knew he was right. And my journal entry says this: I opened my hand and I let them go. Every one. Now, were the tears still coming down my face? Yeah, they were. Did the pain magically disappear? No. But what I did feel is free. That's what I felt. I was free. It was simply the first step in moving forward. And I just want you to know God wants the same thing for you. It's one step, but oh, the freedom. And so now, over 3 years later from that moment in Phoenix, in that hotel room, I just want to share two things that I've experienced on the journey. Everyone say it's a journey. Forgiveness is a journey. Ask any Holocaust survivor. Doesn't happen like that. Corrie ten Boom will tell you it's a journey. And so the first thing that I've learned, that I've experienced, is that letting go gets easier. Why do we hold hurts? Why do we hold them? Because we get used to it. We get used to that feeling of holding those hurts. It becomes who we are. We get used to that feeling. Like I said, you can just show up. But you know why it got easier? Because I remember the freedom. Because after that day in Phoenix, you don't think I've been hurt again? You don't think I've had an opportunity to grab one or two or three or look and go, well, wait, what? And I'd remember that feeling of letting go. It got easier. Another reason that we hold hurts is we protect ourselves by holding hurts. Because if I see those and I don't forget those, I'll be pretty sure that I don't let those happen again. So we think we're protecting ourselves by holding them. But we're really hurting ourselves. Letting go is easier. Because you know what? To live, you're going to be hurt. And life is full of taking that risk. You can't protect yourself from hurt. The last reason that we often hold hurts is it is our form of justice. If I were to let go, then the person that hurt me, like they're free and clear. If I let go, as long as I'm holding them, maybe justice is being served. That's next week's lesson. So you don't want to miss it. Because that's the lesson he taught me a year later. One day, Peter, who was one of the 12 disciples, asked Jesus a question about forgiveness. Matthew records it. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how often Should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times. Let go. Someone hurts me 7 times. I let go. Maybe he's thinking in front of the 12, look at me, I'm going to let go 7 times. No, not 7 times, Jesus replied, but 70 times 7. It wasn't even that number, you get that, right? It was, because probably my husband has exhausted that number in forgiving me, and vice versa. We probably surpassed the 490 by now. What he was saying is, you just got to let go. There is no further explanation given by Jesus. He doesn't clarify, well, certain hurts, certain people. Nope. And that letting go is important business if you call yourself a disciple of Jesus Christ. Now, this message on this particular Sunday was determined all the way back almost a year ago when Tom felt this message at this point, this fall. And so at the end of our sabbatical, I was going to pick up Rob in Texas, and I had a day of 3 airplanes and 3 airports. And so I'm like, well, no better time than to write this message. And so indeed, I wrote the message on the 3 planes in the 3 airports, and I came home ready from sabbatical, ready to deliver this message. And this week, the Lord woke me up in the middle of the night. And he said, one more thing I want you to share with my people. And this is what he said. If a person doesn't take care of hurt, that hurt eventually becomes a root of bitterness. And that's much more difficult than letting go. It requires deep, difficult work because roots are deep-seated. They go down. And the potential is not only to destroy that person, but it also grows in such a way that others are impacted by it. Hebrews 12. The writer of Hebrews he says it pretty straightforward to the church. See to it that no one fails to obtain the grace of God. Semicolon. That means what he's going to add thereafter is connected and related. We never want to fail to obtain the grace of God. That no root of bitterness springs up and causes trouble, and by it many become defiled. When you look at that word bitterness in its original meaning, it's poisonous. It's a poisonous root. And a root grows slowly over time, unseen for a long time. And then all of a sudden it springs up. And you might even think, if you've ever done gardening, you grab that weed and it looks really good because it's not there anymore. But the root It springs up, it causes trouble, the writer says, and its poison impacts many, taints, defiles, hurts. It started with a hurt. And now instead of helping people, we're hurting people. And so the Lord would say, it's important to take care of that. You know why it's important to take care of the root? Because God wants to use you. He wants to use his church. He wants to use me, not to hurt, but to bring healing. Which brings me to the other thing I've learned on this journey of forgiveness, and that's that letting go brings healing. It gets easier, but it brings healing. If I could describe to you the healing that's happened physically, emotionally, spiritually, sleep, peace, anxiety gone, in tune, love, his love, all these things in which the Lord has made me whole by letting go. And from that place of healing comes purpose. One of the greatest stories of forgiveness in the Bible is the story of Joseph. Some of you know it. If you don't, book of Genesis, toward the end. I'm going to just touch on a couple things. But what started as a dream turned into jealousy and rejection and abandonment from his brothers. Joseph's own brothers. Have you ever felt that from someone close to you? Rejection, jealousy, abandonment. And so they're going to leave him for dead in a pit. And they see a better opportunity to send him with this caravan and sell him as a slave. And so they actually make some money, and he ends up in Potiphar's house. And what happens there? In Potiphar's home, he's misrepresented, lied about. His character comes into question, which lands him then in a prison in Egypt. And his gifts are still being used, his skills, and there, Pharaoh's own two servants, baker and butler, end up in the prison, have dreams. Joseph interprets those dreams, and he says, now when you go back to Pharaoh, don't forget about me. But he does. The butler forgets all about it. For his act of goodness, nothing in return. But all of a sudden, the story takes a really sharp turn. Pharaoh has a dream, and the butler remembers. And he calls Joseph. And in one day, like everything turns around. And Joseph is able to interpret Pharaoh's dream that there's going to be years of plenty, there's going to be years of famine. And Pharaoh says, who better to lead this whole thing than you, Joseph? And he becomes second only to Pharaoh in Egypt. Now, we don't know, the Bible does not record the moment or moments that Joseph let go of those hurts. We do have a little glimpse into what he named his two sons. Because during the years of plenty, right before the famine, he gets married, he has two boys, And the Bible records what he named them. Let's look at that in Genesis 41. He named his older son Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my troubles and everyone in my father's family. Remember, I said forgiveness is a journey. It's kind of like if I were to describe what he's basically saying is, I let go and I moved on. That's part of my journey. I let go and I moved on. But you see, there's more that's going to happen. Second son, he names Ephraim, for he said, God has made me fruitful. Now he's beginning to see that my story is ultimately his story. I've been fruitful in the land of my grief, where all the hurt was. I've now become fruitful. The story's climax, of course, is the famine comes, and his own family is being impacted by the famine. His father and his brothers are being impacted by the famine, and they find themselves making their way to Egypt for food, because all the food has been stored in Egypt. And so there they are. They are asking for food of a man that they don't recognize. They don't recognize it's Joseph. His brothers are there looking at whom they think is an Egyptian governor. They don't realize it's Joseph, but Joseph recognizes them. Watch this, because now you see that not only has he let go, but he's allowed forgiveness to bring healing. He's let forgiveness do its healing work. And we know that in this moment, he's not only forgiven his brothers, he's forgiven Potiphar's wife, he's forgiven Potiphar, he's forgiven the butler, because now he sees that there's a greater purpose in all these things that happened. And it is because God had a plan. His people, Jacob, the patriarch, lest there's food, that whole family is going to die. And so now he sees there's a purpose in all of this. And ultimately, he saw that God allowed all of it. And in this moment with his brothers, like this, food, heads bowed, like this is the governor of Egypt, and we need food. The Bible says Joseph remembered the dream, that this moment was going to happen. And you know what? He could have exacted revenge. He could have, at that moment, he had all the power to exact every kind of revenge for the hurt. But he'd already let it go. He'd already allowed it to do its work. And so, I want to read this moment in closing from the book of Genesis. I could tell it, but there's nothing like the writer of Genesis to describe this moment in Genesis 45. Joseph could stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, "Out, all of you." So he was alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly the Egyptians could hear him. And word of it quickly carried to Pharaoh's palace. I am Joseph, he said to his brothers. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were speechless. I can only imagine. Right? They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there in front of them. Please come closer, he said. So they came closer. And he said again, I'm Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. Like, that's what happened. That hurt. But don't be upset. Don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. See, that's purpose. That's his story. This famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more years, and there will be no plowing, there will be no harvesting. But again, let me tell you that God sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you. Think about it. That's letting go. God sent me here, not you. And he's the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh. He's the one that put me in this position, the manager of his entire palace and the governor of all Egypt. It's his work. It's his plan. I invite you to stand. So this closing is actually pretty simple. What about you? What about the hurt that you're carrying? It's only hurting you. And there's no better time to let it go than right here, right now. In that hotel room, it was just a step. But I can't tell you what I felt. That letting go. And so the next few moments, they're for you. They're for you to let go. You might have been tempted to hear this message and go, oh, if so-and-so could hear this message, it would really help them. But it's about you. It's about me. So I'm just going to, again, tell you how it happened, and then I'm going to invite you to come forward. You may choose to stay where you're at, but I know what I find. When I go forward, it's like a step. It's a step. It's the first step. It's just acknowledging that, man, that hurts. That really did hurt.